So we work with manufacturers, operators, stakeholders across the full hydrogen economy. And I guess what we see from scaling up falls really into three main brackets. So one of them is around technology. And it's technology, like Jonathan mentioned earlier, isn't new. Electrolysers, hydrogen production, been around for many years. But what we need in order to make this a commercially viable industry is we need to be a lot more scalable. We also need to put innovations into the technology, which we're seeing, and therefore we need to get those innovations to market, and we need to get them to market quickly. So what we're seeing is a lot of manufacturers moving into this industry. So they might have worked in different sectors, now bringing their expertise, for example, from the automotive sector into hydrogen to make the production of electrolysers a lot more commercially viable through doing continuous processing rather than batch manufacturing. We're also seeing new innovations coming in to make the electrolysers more efficient, more commercially viable that way, more compact, and more modular based. And therefore, it's a matter of bringing that technology to market quickly, commercially, and effectively. The second area, which Jonathan also mentioned on, is competency. We talk about this massive scale up in hydrogen, and we don't have a lot of Jonathans in the world that have come through working in this hydrogen and industrial gases their entire lives. So we need to train people, and we need to train people quickly. We're working a lot with the market in order to get people coming from different sectors, from automotive, from oil and gas, from different power sectors, and getting them to really understand hydrogen, hydrogen production, and also hydrogen equipment manufacturing. The third, and probably the most important, is the legislative landscape. And this comes from both the legislation within the technical aspect, in some cases moving more slowly than the actual projects are. So you're finding people wanting to take electrolysers or different equipment into countries that don't have the legislation or standards in place necessarily to look at hydrogen at this scale or electrolyse at this scale. So they're behind the curveball. But then we talked about using automotive principles in electrolyser manufacturing to make it a lot more scalable and quick, whereas they're working under an industrial, legislative and standards environment, which doesn't necessarily tie itself into this type of production methodology. So there's a lot of things at play. And also, frankly, we need to have support from governments in order to make these scale-ups a reality, in order to avoid us from losing this race towards the 2030 carbon emissions. Because we've got to remember that why are we doing this? Why are we talking about this today? And what's the overall purpose of green hydrogen? And it's to reduce carbon. And therefore, we need support in order to make this industry a reality.